You are talking way too much. And honestly, because of that, you're completely missing the most important signals in the room. Picture this. You're at a dinner party. The conversation naturally dips, and suddenly there's that agonizing 2-second gap. You absolutely hate the awkward pause, right? So you panic and you rush to fill the silence with a joke, a random story, literally anything. But while you're desperately talking, look over at the end of the table. That quiet person sitting there, they are secretly reading the entire room. What exactly do they know that you don't? Well, as someone who has spent a lifetime quietly watching from the edges, I can tell you a secret. Silence isn't an absence of personality. It's actually a highly active strategy. Let's start with section 1, the loudest silence. We're going to unpack the psychology of quiet. For a lot of highly talkative folks, speaking literally is thinking. They process their environment externally. But the quiet mind? It is wired completely differently. Psychological research from our sources actually shows that quiet people process way more than they express. Why? Because their brains process details internally first. They don't just spout out an instant response. And that's not because their minds are blank. No way. It's because they are busy building a massive, complete mental map before a single word is ever uttered. Okay, let's dive into this a bit deeper in section 2, how quiet minds process, and a look at their internal wiring. It happens in this remarkably deep 3-step sequence. When a quiet mind encounters even a super simple topic, they don't just react with the first random thing that pops into their head. Step 1, they take the information in. Step 2, they form a massive cascade of internal thoughts. While you are sitting there waiting for an answer, they are rapidly analyzing a dozen different angles, mapping out consequences, and searching for hidden meanings. Then, step 3, they finally speak. By the time they actually give a verbal response, they haven't just thought about the topic, they've thoroughly explored it. Their mind prioritizes incredible depth over speed. Moving on to section 3, the art of observation and the quiet mind's hyper-awareness. This brings us to a really massive realization. There's a quote from the source material for this explainer that you just have to let sink in. Talking gives information out. Listening brings information in. Just think about that for a second. Every single time you speak just to fill the air, you are essentially giving away your leverage. And this brilliantly illustrates what's actually happening. While everyone else is fighting for the microphone, the quiet observer is doing something much, much more valuable. They're collecting data. They are watching behavior closely. They are analyzing the subtle little shifts in your tone of voice. They study people's immediate reactions to a passing comment. They notice all those hidden behavioral patterns that loud, talkative people are completely blind to. It makes the quiet observer profoundly more aware than they might appear. Let's look at section 4, protecting the inner world. This is essentially a brilliant defense mechanism. You see, there is a much deeper, much more intimate reason why some of us choose to stay quiet. Quiet individuals possess this fiercely guarded inner world. It's their private sanctuary. It holds their most raw thoughts, their truest emotional reactions, and their deepest observations. And trust me, they do not share everything they think or feel with just anyone who walks by. To a quiet person, speaking less simply feels emotionally safer. Silence acts as a literal emotional firewall. Let me give you a specific example of how this works. Imagine a coworker throws a subtle, passive-aggressive insult your way during a meeting. If you react instantly and loudly, you give them your anger. You give them total access to your emotional state. But by holding back and deploying silence, the quiet person prevents that emotional manipulation entirely. They keep their true thoughts completely safe, which gives them absolute control over what others know and who gets access to their vulnerability. Quietness is an intentional, highly effective form of psychological self-protection. Let's move to and see how this builds in section 5, the drain of small talk and everyday social friction. Now, holding up that shield and processing the world with this level of depth, it creates a lot of friction in everyday social dynamics. When a quiet mind is subjected to meaningless small talk, that surface-level empty chatter about the weather or random office gossip, it is literally mentally draining for them. Their brains just aren't wired for surface skimming. But if you engage them in intentional, deep talk, something useful, something purposeful, the impact completely flips. They become incredibly energized and engaged. Basically, if the talk feels empty, they're going to naturally withdraw. And this brings us right back to our dinner party scenario. The talker is terrified of the awkward pause. But quiet people, they do not feel responsible for filling the silence. They are completely, comfortably at home in the pause. Silence just doesn't pressure them the same way it pressures everyone else. Because they don't feel the need to keep every single moment artificially filled, they speak only when it truly matters.
So the crucial point is right here in section 6. Silence is not weakness. It's time for shattering myths.
We have got to fundamentally rewrite how we view the quiet observer. Society's biggest myth tells us that silence equals shyness, or low confidence, or being antisocial, but the psychological reality? Quiet people just have completely different brain wiring. They don't speak unnecessarily, they choose their words with immense care, and because they only deploy their words when they carry absolute weight, their choice to speak less actually makes their presence significantly stronger, not smaller. As we close out this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought. The next time you are in a crowded room and the conversation suddenly drops, and that heavy silence begins to stretch, and the panic starts to set in for all the talkers, don't look at the person rushing to fill the void. Look into the silence. Who are you going to watch?